Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are back to discuss our second movie review of the year 2026. It is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, the follow-up to 28 Years Later. That was in 2025. This one directed by DaCosta, but it's the continuation of the story. I'm going to be one of your hosts for this episode. My name is Darian. I am joined this time by Liz Seiko.
What's going on?
And Sean Villa.
Hello.
Sean is our holdover from the first review of 28 Years Later, a movie you thoroughly enjoyed.
I really like 28
Yeah,
years
really
later.
like 28 Years Later. It was in your top 10, wasn't it, when we did?
It was my number 8.
Yes.
I remember because 28, 8.
Yeah. So
That's how my brain works.
It was in your top 10, so excited that you're on this episode. Liz saw it when it was on streaming. I went and saw it a couple weeks after you guys did the recording in theaters. And I hadn't even seen any of the movies. I just went and watched 28 Days before I saw 28 Years. I still haven't seen 28 Weeks.
You don't need to.
I've heard it's the worst one, and I know it's not a continuation, really.
It's, you know what it is? It's very American. Like they sort of just like gave it away to like a blockbustery kind of movie, which doesn't fit the franchise.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's okay. It's watchable. It's just not the other.
Not like the other ones. But this movie, it's got a lot of hype right now. This has an A- Metacritic. It's in the 90s for Rotten Tomatoes, I believe. Audience score, I think, is a little bit lower, but the critic score, I believe, is at like anywhere from like 93 to a 97, something like that. It is the continuation, as I said, of the last film, the direct continuation. This one is directed by DaCosta, who had done the Candyman remake, and she did The Marvels, an MCU movie that is hot garbage.
She just did Hedda.
She did. Oh, did she do Hedda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she just did Hedda,
Mm-hmm.
which was it's in the conversation for some awards at the Academy Awards. And Alex Garland obviously writing this movie, just like the follow-up. And so had a chance to see this. My theater was full. Were your guys' theaters full?
Packed.
You too, Sean?
I had a pretty full theater.
Okay, because right now one of the big conversations around this movie is that it's not doing well box office wise because of, and we could start the conversation with this, because of the ending of the last movie, which is something that I know Liz, after seeing it, wrote in the Culture Wave chat. She was like, what the fuck is going on? So this has a really direct correlation and understanding now, because we're following Sir Jimmy Crystal and the Jimmies throughout this movie. But Liz, starting with you, coming off of the ending of that movie and you being late to the game with 28 Years Later in 2025, how did you feel going into this movie and the direction that potentially it could have gone in?
I would not have seen this movie if I wasn't on this podcast.
Okay.
Like, truly, because I was so turned off from 28 Years Later. The ending for me just was out of left field. It was so random. I felt like I was watching a blooper like ending. But you guys kind of repitched it to me of like it's supposed to be a direct connection to this next one. So that's why I kind of gave it a chance. So much better. It really does put that film into perspective. Do I still think that the other one just like has a lot more issues? Yes. The Bone Temple, though, is a wild film, and I really enjoyed it. Okay. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about it.
Okay, Sean, you being probably the biggest fan on this network of the first movie, though I did enjoy it. What were your thoughts now on the follow-up, broad thoughts without giving away spoilers?
Well, you know, I think I don't have as much of an issue as the ending of the first one, and I had faith that this movie was going to like rectify any concerns that we had with the end of the first movie, and I think it mainly does. I do think the tonal whiplash was interesting because the tone of the last scene is not really the tone of this movie, which is totally valid. But I do think that you know, not to get a big head or anything, I was kind of on the money with like what that scene meant thematically and like what it was leading us to with this movie, which is the introduction of evil to this world, human evil. And it's I love this movie, this new movie. So I think fucking Sir Jimmy Crystal is one of the most hateable, repugnant, evil bastards in a movie I've seen in a very long time. And I couldn't wait for someone to kill him the entire movie. So I like that the like whiplash of the first movie of like, boom, here's this guy. And then he follows through with that, with like how much of a presence he has in this next movie. So I feel like the ending was not really an issue for me in the first place, but this one just sealed the deal.
It solidified it. Yeah, definitely. So we had talked a little bit about after I had saw 28 Years Later, the connections to Sir Jimmy Crystal kind of being a little bit of symbolic to Jimmy Savile, who is a figure in British culture as like one of the most evil people that's ever existed in the world. So the fact that they did that as a choice from Alex Garland's original treatment and discussing it with Danny Boyle and Nia DaCosta, who came in for this movie, I do think that it does have a good through line. The most interesting stuff for me in this movie, which we'll get into more when we get in the conversation, is the Samson stuff, because I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, and it's the one thing that didn't necessarily completely work for me, but I think it works for a lot of other people. But I think this movie is a lot more divisive than the last movie was, because coming out, at least in my interpretation of walking out of a movie and hearing the conversation, literally there was a couple that was there
arguing,
not arguing, but like complete opposite viewpoints.
Okay, tell like
so
away.
the female counterpart was like what'd you think? And the boyfriend goes, I thought that fucking sucked. To which she said, I actually kind of really liked it. So like even having that kind of correlation between two different people. Also, I saw this movie with my brother. I liked this movie more than he did. He didn't really necessarily love a lot. He goes, I like stuff that's in it. He goes, but I don't love it as a movie as much as I did the last movie. So I do think it's a bit more divisive, but I will say, like, from the critical perspective, like if you look at like the critical community right now, it's overwhelmingly positive.
Critics like this movie. I will say in my theater, there was a lot of clapping that happened.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah, I had some claps in the big old AMC. So I think it was generally pretty positive in my theater, but I saw it with my dad. And my dad was like, that was weird, which is like most people, I feel like.
Has he seen any of the other films, or no? He just went into this one.
I made him watch the first 28 years.
Oh,
so he watched 28 years for the first time like an hour before this movie.
And then went
which is
right
such an
into
interesting viewing experience.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, I mean, he liked it. Again, it's just like I feel like most people are just like, this is a movie that's crazy. This is a crazy fucking movie. So like, I appreciate a movie that's just like, we're gonna go nuts. But I mean, a lot of people are just like too weird.
Well, I do love that it does something in like the zombie genre that is so not typical of the zombie genre.
Yeah,
because it's taking very bold,
very much like 28 Days Later was in its time.
Yes, you know? And I think that I think 28 Days is still my favorite of the franchise. I agree with you. Yeah, some people I think might think that this is their favorite. Going back to Jimmy Crystal for a second though, Jack O'Connell killing it as bad guys right now.
Come on.
I mean, from Remick to Sir Jimmy Crystal, and also very different villains and very different performances in that. So I'm happy for him because I think he's a really underrated actor. So getting to see him kind of have a platform in this movie. And there were some standout performances, obviously, too. Ray Fiennes is obviously great in this, and some of the other Jimmies that I thought did a really good job. But
the other Jimmies.
Let's talk about the Jimmies in general, right? So they're a band of these, like Sean said, evil people that they dress in jumpsuits, purple jumpsuits. Crew. Are they all? No,
they all each have their own color.
Which again, that's kind of an allegory to Sir Jimmy's love of the Teletubbies, which we see throughout this film, kind of the continuation from the last movie.
Yeah.
And picking up where the last movie kind of left off, Spike is now kind of inundated into this group by combat, where he kind of gets lucky by taking out one of the members by kind of
hitting an artery,
hitting an artery in his leg. To be in a position where it almost feels like he obviously doesn't belong. Spike doesn't belong with this group of people. So Liz, for you, coming off of the tonal whiplash of the last movie's kind of conclusion, what did you think about the way they kind of re-introed you to this group and kind of seeing a little bit more of the sadistic nature and their rituals and all the kind of stuff with the Satanism that goes on throughout the movie?
It took me a little bit to get into it, honestly. The opening, like 15 minutes of being in their world, I was a little nervous because I was like, oh God, is this just going to kind of be going on like this rampage and following this group and then just watching kind of gore horror happen, which is fine if that's like the type of film that they want to make, but I just wasn't really, I didn't want that. So I was a little nervous when we had like that opening scene with them to get us back into their world, because it was very just like brutal and gore from the beginning.
The one at the farm you're talking about, like the
no,
like
the opening when Spike is fighting for his position.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like it's very whiplashy cuts. It's very a lot of blood coming out, and I just was like, oh god, I don't know if I'm gonna like this movie. I was so annoyed already, but I was like, give it some time. I think what worked for me with the Jimmies is seeing that they're not all just following in line with Sir Jimmy Crystal, that you can kind of see the cracks in the foundation already happening. But yeah, so I was kind of not fully in it in the beginning, but then over time, as I started to see the characters progress more, I got on board with it. I will say I don't know if I would have liked this film as much if it just fully focused on their story and the evilness and like the satanic worship. I think the big selling point for this film for me was the Samson storyline.
Okay.
I loved that part. And if it wasn't in this film, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much as like I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Sean, what about you?
Well, I think I have some issues with the plot, like in general, with Jimmy Crystal. I think like he's an interesting character. It's a great lead performance, and I think there's like a lot to love about like the intrigue of it. But I'm also like you, Liz. I'm not a gore person at all, so like I don't really think that like just like blood and guts and disgusting is the same as like a scary scene. There is merit to it because like when we're watching the charity sequence, I was like, I cannot fucking wait for the scene to end. But not in like a, oh, this movie sucks way. It's because like it's uncomfortable, it's weird, and like I guess that is kind of horror, right? It's horrific. So I understand like the intent behind that. It's not 100% my thing, but I do think that it's justified by the fact that these are Satanists. So that's like a big swing for me. Like I think if you're gonna make a movie that's like about the devil, right, and like these are like true evil people, you can't kind of like half-ass it. You know, like if a lot of like the heinous shit that these people did in this movie didn't happen, I wouldn't buy into this like biblical imagery and themes and shit that we kind of get into in the third act, because I was shown how fucking sadistic this guy is. Like I buy the like devil allegory because of what I was subjected to. So it is kind of forgiven for me in that way. Like I understand the purpose in it. But I wouldn't say I necessarily enjoy the scenes themselves. Like, I mean, if you enjoy it, I think you're kind of a freak. But you know, like it's
no, I get it. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's dealing with disembodiment and like this. It's horrific.
That charity scene was
the charity sequence is crazy. But I love how it kind of goes all the way back to the opening scene of the last movie, where you really are, and that's why I think my favorite scene, besides the tribute in the third act, which I think is fucking so awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
My favorite scene in the movie is the conversation between Sir Jimmy and Dr. Kelsin, because it has so much of like, there's nothing interesting about seeing a psychopath just be a psychopath and have no element of like, I guess heart isn't the right word, but an element of like
humanity.
Yes. And being able to see that conversation with Kelsin, and even the fact that he is for the first time unsure of himself, like broadly on the surface, makes it for a very interesting dynamic. And I love that he goes back to talking about that opening sequence in the first movie where he really did see something that was so unbelievably traumatic, and seeing his father like kind of, again, being the type of person too, however you look at it, it's like he is the one that's bringing in all of this horror and all of this death and all of this trauma for Jimmy as a kid, that he has to kind of just lay there and just kind of let it all happen and see that through his own eyes. As how old does he say he is when that happens? He's like 6.
I remember.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, to me, that's just like, it's great story. I love that it's great as a part 2 to me. Like, and I think you talked about that when we talked on the Best of Movies podcast, because this really does serve as a 2-part story, like through and through, from the first movie to this movie. And that's what I think makes me appreciate this movie a little bit more than the previous one.
I think it's interesting because this is like a Jimmy duology. Like now that, I mean, we're kind of in the spoilers now, right? So like now that Jimmy's dead, like I think it really closes off these 2 movies as sort of being like their own little micro thing. because it starts and ends with Jimmy Crystal, which I think is so fascinating because he's not in the first movie.
Yeah.
The POV in general in these movies I think is really, really interesting to me, and it's some of it I don't like, and then some of it I really like. I think like the main thing about that is that the main character of this movie is Dr. Kelsin, not Spike, which I thought was a really intriguing decision. And I actually think Spike taking a back seat in this movie is probably my least favorite thing about it, because I was really compelled by him in the first part of the movie. I think he's a really great young actor. I think he's a compelling lead and like a good kind of what's the word, venue or vacuum, whatever, into this world. So the perspective shift away from him kind of upset me, and I also don't like that we didn't get any Aaron Taylor Johnson. I was really expecting him to be back, and he never shows up. I think that's odd. But I think Dr. Kelsin is maybe the best part of these two movies for me. I think he's amazing in this role, and I think the character, and especially the dichotomy between him and Jimmy, is my favorite part of the movie. I think it's great. And I think everything going on with Samson is great. And Samson having a POV and being a character is so out of left field and so interesting to me. Like, I wasn't at all thinking that we were going to like follow a zombie POV in this movie. And like, I've never seen that before. So like, I appreciate shit like that. And I think the whole thing is very like avant-garde in the way that it's kind of structured. But at the same time, just like the last movie, it does 3 acts very distinctly. I feel like we break this movie up into like 3 parts, and I feel like a lot of movies, they just kind of like flow, and then if you want to like take a writing class on it, you can kind of figure out like where all the beats happen. These movies I feel like have pretty like straight lines through them of like, this is the first part, this is the second part, this is the third part. So it's so fascinating like how that works, and then we still have like 7 characters who we're like seeing through their eyes. I think it's just really cool.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they're gonna go with the next movie, because though thematically and what is with it, like the pieces of what are in this movie are really interesting and really intriguing, to me the grand scheme of it is that now where do you go from here? Because
have they said they're doing another one?
Well, they are, because yeah they are.
Okay.
So I mean, again, we're talking spoilers at this point. If you haven't seen this movie, I'll give another warning, because we're going to talk about a significant person, a character.
It's a big spoiler.
Yes, big spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, just return to this after you've seen it. But Cillian Murphy returns, and his daughter return at the end of this movie. And it's kind of a call to action at the end of the movie, being like, should we go save these people? Being Alfie Williams' Spike and Erin Kellyman's Jimmy Inc. But what does she say her name is?
Kelly?
At the end? Yeah,
I'm going to say it's Kelly.
I'm going to say Kelly. That might be wrong. Sorry,
I don't remember. I know it's a K.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
So, but it's like kind of this call to action of like, can they or will they go and help these people? And he says, of course, like we will. Of course we should. And then the credits start rolling. So you know that like they're setting up for this third part with Cillian being at the forefront, which that's where the franchise starts.
Okay.
And he's an executive producer on these movies, and he obviously this is Cillian's franchise. He doesn't have a franchise. This is kind of become it. So the only characters that really have the holdover now going into this third movie are Spike, Kelly, and Samson, which that's another interesting thing. It's like, how are we going to connect Samson and Cillian's character? Because that is the big one for me, where I'm like, maybe it'll have the payoff and I'll appreciate the Samson story more. Because to me, it threw me off.
You weren't into it? You weren't buying it?
I wasn't into it.
Okay.
It's not that I like, I understand. It's like, again, if you want to have a happy ending to these movies, it's like, well, we should try to find a fucking cure to what's happening, and you have a doctor. Like, I get that part of it, but to me, it was just like, it felt like it came out of left field, especially from the last movie. Because I don't see, but again, I've only seen the first movie once, and maybe I have to return to it.
Because I think, I don't know, what I liked about it was kind of what Sean was talking about on either off screen another day or when we were talking about best films, is that like they were trying to go with this conversation of like the humans are kind of the animals almost in a way, or like the evil people are human beings, and these zombies like they didn't get to choose to be that way, and just because their natural instincts are like different than ours doesn't mean that they're necessarily evil or bad. And I kept picking it up in this film more than in the previous one, which is what I like that they did with Samson, of making it possible that like we can get these zombies back to being like civilians in a way, and they may not fully ever come back to what they were, but at least we can give them a little bit of like peace and happiness in a way. Yeah, and live amongst them. We don't have to completely convert them, but you can live amongst them in peace. And like even we see it in some of the scenes how when we're introduced to like the farm people, the one guy like starts attacking one of them when they're not even provoked yet. So it's like, yeah, like sometimes the humans are the problem. They're attacking first out of fear, obviously, but what if they were to just leave those things alone? Would they have screamed? Would they have seen them? You don't know.
Yeah.
So I love
Samson.
Samson.
Jimmy did say, I'm going to kill all of you, like immediately preceding.
No, I'm talking about when we're introduced to the pregnant girl.
Like when they're outside of their like holding. And they're like hunting.
Okay. And they're like hunting.
The one guy gets...
I got it.
And you see the one that has like the broken foot, like limping. And then the guy's like, I gotta go get him. Okay. And it's like, do you? Like the one has like, he has no foot. Like, is he really gonna come in and attack you right now?
Yeah, nature versus nurture.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that if they didn't have the Samson element, that would not have been as relevant or obvious.
Did you have something, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really talk about the Samson thing without talking about like the reason that I think this movie is great. And because I think there's a lot of problems with this movie in terms of like, just like general, like kind of like some structured things. There's like certain scenes that have like a little, like some things don't have payoff, whatever. I just love the like thesis of this movie, which is just talking about like there's a line in here that kind of like bam, got it, that Fiennes says at the end where he's like, it's just us. That's it. That's the line. It's just us. There's no like ultimate bad guy. There's no fucking like amazing good guy. He's an atheist, so it kind of comes from a place of like there's no God, there's no devil. It's just us. It's just people here. So I think the Samson thing is an important piece of that because it's trying to say that like he's not an inherent evil. That like just because there's these things out there that are aggressive and they want to hurt us and they don't understand us and we don't understand them doesn't mean that they're evil. They're not antagonistic. And if you really try hard enough, you can find a way to coexist with that thing, with those people, right? So I really like that. And I love the butting of the heads between him and Jimmy Crystal. Because Jimmy is a character who is taken aback by just like the cruelty of the world. And the only way that he can explain like how horrible things have gotten and this trauma that he has is by saying that, well, it must be that I'm the devil's son because there's no other possibility that like I can cope with. I'm cursed. I have to
living
be
in hell every single
day. This
This
is hell. There's no other fucking possible explanation. So if I'm in hell, I'm going to live like I'm in hell, and that's it. And that's how you cope. And then Dr. Kelsin is the one to tell him that like, no, that's not true. It's just us. Like you can change. You can get out of that. And obviously, I mean, he's an evil fucker and he had it coming and he doesn't change. But I just really, really like the like messaging of that. Of just like, you know, there is no like inherent overwhelming evil. It's just like not a thing. And he's a character that's so obsessed with death and like just the kind of like cycle of life and honoring it in a way. And it's just a character that like really got to me. Like
Kelsin, you're saying?
Yeah, Kelsin. Mm-hmm. I just really like what the movie is saying about people. And it really like brought me back to the end or the third act of 28 Days because that movie sort of establishes the like, well, humans are the bad guy trope in zombie movies. Yeah. Like every zombie thing since then, like Walking Dead, Last of Us, all that kind of shit is like, yeah, zombies are scary, but like they're just kind of animals. And then like when you come across people, those are the guys that'll like do the crazy shit to you. You know, that's when you're fucking in trouble. And I feel like this movie was Alex Garland kind of like expanding on that thought and being like, well, not really.
Yeah.
Because actually like zombies have always been kind of a metaphor. They're not animals. They're people in the same way. And Samson kind of helps like fill that role for me. So I just really, really like it. I think this is like a very thematically deep movie and it has a message and like an idea that I just like really like and agree with, I guess, which helps. So I don't know. I really like it.
Well, yeah, I think part of the problem with it also is that now you don't have Kelsin going into the third movie, who is the most compelling character they've ever created.
Well, possibly, because he does get carried away.
Oh, that's true.
By Samson.
That's true. I didn't think of it that like
that. Does. You know what I really hated about that ending was the random jump scare of Samson coming back.
Yeah.
What was that? Why did they have a random jump scare for no reason?
I guess that's probably just to confirm that Jimmy Crystal's dead.
Dead,
they had to be
right? Oh,
okay, because if he was
it.
just like laying there, then it's like, oh, but maybe he could find out,
True.
and then the zombie ate him. So it's like, all right.
I was literally like, why are we doing random
I know,
jump scares?
They've
done well enough.
It hit me too. I turned to my brother. I go, that just scared the shit out of me. It's like there were that I want to talk about the third act, the big tribute sequence, because
what a moment.
First of all, I would argue if this movie came out in 2025, it's like one of the 10 best set pieces of the year.
Yeah.
So it's already firmly entrenched there for me in 2026.
I said that in my review, is that like it's January and I already know this is one of my favorite scenes of the year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's beautifully shot. It has great moments of humor. Like I love when Dr. Kelsin kind of turns the tide. Sir Jimmy's like, "No, I think that's it. I think that's all we got, buddy."
Yeah.
And it's a scene that's obviously very layered, and it has, to me, the biggest payoff follow-up to the first movie with Dr. Kelsin being able to save Spike. And I do agree, Sean, one of my other gripes with this movie is Alfie Williams being sidelined, because to me Spike was one of the most intriguing parts of the first movie, and he is very not a part of this movie, I feel like. Which I guess it's not his story at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're passing it on, sort of. But that was so compelling to me with the stuff with Jodie Comer in the first movie, and obviously understanding now what it's going to be like without a father, and Kelsin maybe being able to be that for him, and now will Cillian be that for him? Like, I'm curious how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Does his real one come back into the picture eventually?
Like Aaron Taylor Johnson and Cillian go into war on screen. I could see that possibly being a thing.
Sick.
But Sean, going back to you, and then Liz, your thoughts on the on that sequence, that whole kind of Satanist ritual ceremony.
Dude, listen, I like Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's not in that many movies. Fucking Iron Maiden comes on and it's like the greatest music video sequence of all time. I was like, holy shit, dude, this is amazing. Again, like the energy that Ralph Fiennes is bringing to this movie is like, how many amazing performances is he gonna give before we're like, let's give him an Oscar now? Can we get it over with? I mean, we're there.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's amazing in this sequence. The lighting's incredible. I just love the like silliness of it without it being like, what's even happening? Like it works, you know, like it works in what's happening, but the tone is absurd. He's pretending to be the devil and is really excelling at it, which is hilarious. Like it's so inherently funny and silly, but it's like, you know, it works for the movie just because of like what was established in the great scene with him and Crystal. So I mean, there's so much to say about it. I think ultimately it's just awesome is the word. Like it's just so great. There's no aspect of that scene, like the surprise, the lighting, the song, Ralph Fiennes' performance, like the set piece. It's all incredible. It's really like a Sinner's barn burning down moment, you know, adjacent.
I like that we get more of Kelsin's personality in this movie.
Yeah.
Like when we see him kind of go in the bunker and we see kind of the life he's living.
Dancing.
Yeah. But for you, Liz, like again, a similar vibe to the conclusion of the first movie where it kind of does flip the movie on its head for a little bit. But I agree with Sean where I think it fits the tone more. Did you feel that way more with...
Way better payoff. Okay. Like this felt like it was in the moment. It made sense for the storyline. I also just think it's funny because really the whole time I was also watching it, I just kept thinking of all the like the promo pics that they've been using, and I'm like, what point does he become
look like a
I'm like, at what point is he gonna look like an absolute like satanic worshiper at a certain point? I'm like, what are we gonna do? And then I was like, okay, he's gonna pretend to be like the devil. I did not expect a full musical performance, but it was
so epic.
It was great. It was throwing paint on the wall and it fully made sense. It could have been really bad, but it wasn't. It was very entertaining. My audience after started clapping.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I had the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I had some clapping audience members at that scene, like, yeah, you
Yeah.
know?
I
People
do.
loved it.
I do think
They
that is
loved
the
it.
sequence that no matter what you think of the movie, I think you're gonna have a good time with that entire sequence.
It's so great.
It's
So great. And it's also surprising. Like, you're really not it goes long too, much longer than I expected it to go.
Yeah,
I
the
could have watched
whole
another.
song.
I
I
could have
know.
watched another 20 minutes of it.
I know.
So
I know.
it's
He should
so
do the whole
epic.
album.
He should do the whole album. Is there anything else in terms of the Jimmies that you picked up on, Sean, in terms of kind of the way they play things out throughout the movie? Because we have, like, I think that real intro to them with other characters other than Spike when they finally get to the farm is really has that, like, it could lean into the corny trope of being so childish that it's evil, but I think they walk the line perfectly with the Teletubby dance and the way that he kind of speaks in this lingo that is very reminiscent of, like, late 90s, early 2000s, because that's what he knows, and he's talking about, like, his peeps and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I like how they lean into that in the script. So what did you think about the way they kind of reestablished the Jimmies in this movie to kind of put you on that trail, because you're following them throughout,
Right.
I don't know, 60% of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I said in the first review that I did with Zach that, like, this franchise as a whole is very British. Like, it's a very British franchise.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Jimmies, what makes them unique for me is how tied in they are to that culture. And I would imagine that's kind of the culture that, like, Alex Garland was growing up around, you know, just like that early 2000s British culture. There's a lot that we're pulling from that time period that's being used as, like, personality for just an otherwise, like, kind of bland, violent group of psychopaths that I think makes it intriguing enough. And I think it becomes extra intriguing if you try and look at it from, like, the lens that you do about, like, Jimmy Savile and, you know, like, hidden agendas and just sort of, like, what that culture means to the theme of the movie, which I don't necessarily have my finger on because I'm not from that place and from that time necessarily. So, it's more like flavor for me, but I can see that there is a depth behind it. Like, I think the whole thing with, like, Saint Nick is very interesting. The idea to be a Satanist in the first place, I think is unique. It works for me, but I could see how that puts people off. Like, there are some people, again, that are just like my dad doesn't like evil religious imagery. So that was just like, basically he was already like, all right,
He was done.
you know, it was over. So, like, again, I respect this movie for being crazy and for, like, going all out and trying to be wild. And I think most of it works for me. And I think the Jimmies are, like, a pretty good example. Sometimes I was like, all right, enough. But generally speaking, I really like it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of Jack O'Connell. I think he's excellent.
So good. I also thought Erin Kellyman was really good in this movie, who plays Kelly.
Oh.
And I've seen her in a few other things where I feel like it's one of those performers that sometimes Hollywood tries to, like, push on you a little bit, and then you're like, she's clearly talented, but I don't like the way they're angling for this person to be. And I thought this was a great role for her, working alongside Alfie and Emma Laird, who plays Jemima.
I think it's Jemima.
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 She
Jemima?
is the best part of Mayor of Kingstown, which I stopped watching, but she's the best part of it, and I think she's great. And so when I saw she was going to be a part of the Jimmies, I was like, oh, I hope she gets something to do. And she plays crazy so well in this movie.
Yeah.
So I hope she also gets some more attention coming off.
I'll give her a shout because it's crazy that after watching Innocent Family get skinned alive, that her just, like, delivering that line, it was enough to be like, oh no, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah,
it's gonna get even worse.
Yeah,
you know. So
I know.
I
Yeah,
respect that.
she is truly menacing in her tiny usage in the movie. But Liz, was there anything else positive or negative that you picked up on that you wanted to discuss that we haven't yet at this point?
No, I mean, I think that I am kind of surprised that you guys are confident they're going to do another one. I mean, I do get it that they have Cillian at the end, but, like, where do they go with the story? Like, what are they going to, like, read all of his scientific notes and, like, be able to figure out the math to, like, and magically find all this morphine that, like, they can save the world with? I just don't know where they can go besides just showing more death and more fighting. Like, you know, I don't know where, like, we've come at this storyline from a more positive tone, I would say, with the whole Samson thing, showing that it is possible. There's a spark of hope that they can be saved in a way, but it's like that was pretty much all lost with Kelsin. unless like
I mean, like Sean said,
what are they
he
trying
might-
to show that Cillian's character at the end is like so smart that he's teaching his daughter and that's how he can do all of this because he's brilliant. Like I don't buy that.
I think that it could be something. If Kelsin is really alive, it could be a battle of wits and their real understanding and belief in what they think is the right thing for these people, the zombies, because I don't think Cillian. I don't know what Cillian's character is going to be like now that we've been removed from him for 26 years in canon or whatever it is.
Yeah, something like that.
But I can't imagine him having the same outlook that Kelsin has. And that's why I kind of hope Kelsin is alive, because I kind of want to see what that dynamic is like between those two mindsets. I think of it, again, just from a realistic perspective. There's two sides to think of it. One, the first movie disappointed in terms of box office, and then they winded up still greenlighting this one because they announced it as a trilogy, and this one now it's not doing as well box office wise yet. It may, but it's not.
I think it will.
But it's definitely critically more beloved than the last movie was. So you would think that they're like, we might as well finish it off because we have Cillian on board as an executive producer. You finally get to see him again, and he is so much of the DNA of the first movie. But I agree with you. I don't know necessarily where they go. Do you have an idea on where they could potentially go with the third movie? If it happens.
I mean, I think that like the reason that I have such an issue with Spike taking a back seat is because I feel like this trilogy is about establishing the kind of worldview that this kid is going to have. Like that's sort of that's the only way I kind of see this progressing, because it has a very like vignette, flowy, dreamy style to it of like we're kind of like following all these different people and we're getting different like big ideas that are coinciding at the end, and like I'm enjoying that structure. I'm enjoying like the ebb and flow of it, and I'm getting some like really powerful shit out of it. But I do think that like to cap this off, I think it's really reliant on Spike for me, and like what comes of it, of like what this kid is going to walk away having learned. Because this movie is a very like, you know, the first movie is sort of about him learning to accept death and become a man and, you know, find himself in this place in the world and try to like learn to grow up in it alone. This movie is about his temptation into being evil and, you know, just being slammed with like the world is hell. And if you don't, you know, become a demon, then you're fucked. And like, this is the only way to survive.
Poor kid.
Right? Yeah. So like, it's these two really good, like side by sides. And now he's come out of it. And I feel like the third movie's got to be about his choice. What is he going to do? Like, what kind of viewpoint is he going to push forward, having learned from these movies, right? Like, what's his arc? Which is why I think it's upsetting that I didn't get as much from his character in this movie, because I feel like the third will have a little bit less of an impact because of that. And I'm not sure if I'll be as satisfied with the flowy vignette style that these two movies had in a conclusive third.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say though we got like a little bit of like an idea of what his arc could be by him killing Sir Jimmy.
Spike,
or like
you're talking
him
about?
stabbing him in
Yeah.
a way. Like that is because I feel like he was just very passive in this film, and then that was finally the first time he actually took like an action. I don't know if they end up doing one and they focus on him. This kid's got to be a little bit more jaded, though. I mean, he saw people getting skinned alive. Like that kid's got to have some like edge to him. He can't just be like, "Oh, I'm just going for the ride."
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's going to be interesting with the dynamic that he has with Kelly, too, because it's somebody that he now leans on and trusts even more. And then it's like if Kelsin comes back into the picture. Because even the complications with him and Kelsin, it's like when they're onlooking him, when Sir Jimmy's claiming him to be Saint Nick, he doesn't want to go near him again. Like he left him like in the previous movie because he wanted to kind of go out on his own. And it was a foolish decision, obviously. Like he should have stayed with somebody.
Yeah.
Because then he gets brought into the Jimmy group. But that's the thing with Cillian kind of having the years of experience and understanding probably more about the disease than anyone in this world besides Kelsin, maybe. Like that's where I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because there's going to be a lot of choices that Spike is going to have to make, but I don't know where they're going to go, because obviously it's not going to be a straight drama. Like that's not what
I gotta be honest, I don't think the cure thing's gonna come into it as much as you guys think.
Really? You think it's just done, that it died with Kelsin possibly?
I just kind of think like it worked for like the thesis of this movie, and like that, like it needed to be there for that reason. But like, I don't know, because essentially we've established a character which is really cool, is like a guy who's basically just like a super mutant.
Yeah,
You know,
fully.
like just like a giant jacked guy that could like rip you in half, but is
Mhm.
also like conscious. So I think that's cool, but like I don't know like how that's going to fit into what I think this third movie might be, which honestly like I don't know. When the first movie ended, I had a very solid idea of like where it was going and a
Mhm.
prediction that I think I was like mostly right on. This time around, like I love the first movie. I love 28 Days Later. I've really enjoyed these past two. But like I don't know like what Cillian Murphy is doing back in this franchise. Like I don't know what he's going to contribute thematically to the movie. And I know I say theme 1,000 times an episode. I mean, it is cool. Like I get the appeal of just like A-lister from the first one. He's back. It's hype. We're bringing back the original theme song. I fucking love that theme song, by the way. It's so perfect. So like I got hyped in the theater. I was like, nice, dude, we're bringing it back. The theme's back. This is sick. But like I don't really know like if it's gonna pan out in the way that I'm hoping it will.
Yeah, I'll say this: the fact that they planned it as a trilogy gives me more confidence
Mhm.
because it's not one of these things where they were like they planned it as a trilogy, even if the second movie wasn't going to get made, which people were scared wasn't going to get made because of the first movie's box office reception. So the fact that kind of because Cillian was on as an executive producer, this is like Cillian, Alex Garland, and Danny Boyle all coming together to kind of flesh this out. I don't know who's directing the third movie. I hope it's Nia DaCosta because I think she did a better job directing this movie than
I
Danny
kind of
did.
feel like I heard that Boyle's coming back.
That's what I thought I heard too.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's true, but I don't know. I'm partial to Danny Boyle. I think Nia DaCosta did an excellent job here, and she was my biggest concern going into the movie because I really liked the way that Boyle directed the first one. She's great. I think like she really did like an excellent job here, which surprised me because the only other thing that I knew she did was the Marvels,
which is terrible.
Yeah, which is a piece of shit, as you said. So
yeah, I mean it's a really bad movie, but again, a lot of Marvel movies it's hard to kind of separate from the system.
Mhm.
I didn't see Hedda. Liz really enjoyed Hedda.
I loved Hedda,
and a lot of people really like the Candyman reboot, which
she
I didn't see it, but I know that she's also a big fan of horror, and she's a huge fan of the franchise in general, which means she has the passion for this world, which is why I think it kind of shows in this movie that thematically it works in line with the continuation of the last movie. But I think it's time for scores at this point. So you want me to go first?
Yeah, hit us with it.
Cool.
What do you got?
I'm happy that we have a movie in January that is as good as this because it takes quite a while sometimes for the things to get going to the start of the year. So I'm actually upset that it hasn't made as much money right now because January is usually a dumping ground for movies, and this is a really good movie placed in January, so everyone should go and see it. But make sure you see 28 Years Later before you see this one because you need that.
Do you?
I think you do.
I'm kidding.
I think you do. Oh, okay.
I was like,
you totally do.
Did you say years or days?
Year. I mean, I think you should see days and years, but obviously years is a direct continuation from years.
Right. Okay.
So you really need to see that before you see this one. Yeah. I do have some issues with the movie, but they're not unbelievably major. So I'm going to give this movie an 8. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Liz, what about you?
I went in with extremely, extremely low expectations. I was ready to come on this episode and rip this thing apart and tell you guys why you're wrong in every way possible. But I walked out enjoying it. Do I agree that there's still some things I think in this world that I don't personally love as much as I think you guys do. But I can still appreciate great performance and growth in like a series. So I am, if they do a third one, I'm interested to see what happens. I hope that they can continue on like this trajectory of like making everything come together rather than giving me weird tonal shifts like the first film was, or the 28 Years Later was. But I'm going to give it a solid 7.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I mean, I've said similar things on this podcast before. I say it all the time. I'm so much more partial to a movie that is really trying to say something that's important and is technically imperfect. And, you know, this is a movie that's very crazy, very out there. It has loose plot threads. There are scenes that don't necessarily work for me. There are decisions made in the film in general that I don't totally love or agree with. But I think that it's saying something really interesting and poignant, and it has a point, and I know why they brought this franchise back, which is more than I can say for a lot of franchises that return after a 2-decade-long waiting period. It's a franchise that is important to me because the first one scares the shit out of me. I think it's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite horror movies, and it has influenced a ton of media that I love, which just flat out doesn't exist without Days. And I like Garland a lot as a writer, and I think he's coming in here with a lot of interesting ideas and is just doing stuff that's clicking for me. I'm just really fascinated by this world and what he's trying to tell us, and I want to go back for a third installment, and I really, really like this one. I'm at a 9. I'm at a 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a perfect movie or anything. I think that if those themes weren't hitting for me, it could be lower, but they are, man. I vibe with the message and the point of this movie. I really like it.
Yeah. Well, that is our review and our conversation discussion of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Let us know in the comment section, what did you guys think of this movie? Are you guys loving this movie? Were you guys disappointed with this coming off of 28 Years Later? Are you just not a fan really in general of this franchise, even though you've given it a few tries at this point? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. Give this video a like if you guys can, and subscribe to us. Here at the Culture Rave Media Network, we're covering a bunch of stuff on the channel right now. Just released as of this day of recording, we finally put out our best of television for 2025. Our most anticipated TV of 2026 is going to be coming soon as well. We have new reviews up for other films that have been coming out and wrapping up our 2025 coverage. And myself, Sean, Vinny, possibly Liz, and Mark are going to start covering the new Game of Thrones series, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, week to week for the next 6 weeks. So look out for that. And you guys can follow us on social media if you don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video and also in our YouTube description. Just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Liz Seiko.
I'm Sean Villa.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.